And so there's another article in I did a couple of these articles in my past videos, and this one is a very new one. It's dated February 7th, 2019 by Nicole Manna. And it states, a bullet in your pocket. Lawyers target battery makers in exploding e-cigarette cases. And it reads, what some people, let's see, we'll make this just a little bit bigger for you. What some people thought was a healthier alternative to smoking cigarettes has left at least 4 Texans and numerous others across the nation disfigured and burned after their electronic cigarettes exploded. Now, their attorneys have filed lawsuits targeting the manufacturers of e-cigarette batteries and the vape stores that sell them. The issue of e-cigarette safety resurfaced after 24-year-old William Brown of Fort Worth was killed last month when his e-cigarette exploded in his face, causing an artery in his neck to be severed. It's not known what type of device he was using, if it was modified, or what company manufactured the battery. Austin-based attorney A. Craig Eland has 4 open lawsuits involving injured smokers of e-cigarettes and said all 4 of his clients face long, hard roads to recovery. Eland works alongside his co-counsel, Angela Niemans, of 11 Symes Abrams LLP in California. The law firm is saying, we have retained 50 cases and have filed 20 so far. 5 of those, including Eland's cases, are in Texas. Another is expected to be filed within a week. The law firm also says we have clients who have lost teeth or they've had projectile pieces of the device go into their neck and skin. We have one gentleman who is paralyzed in part of his body because of nerve damage. The injuries in the lawsuits Eland has filed are significant. On July 7, 2016, an e-cigarette device inside the left pants pocket of 25-year-old Michael Turner of Houston exploded. He was treated in a burn unit for 2nd and 3rd degree burns spanning from his left thigh to his calf. The battery was an eFest IMR 18650. That is something this is all comes down to education. I mean, for one thing, it would have been really good if these people were watching channels like Battery Mooch, who teaches you about battery safety. The only issue I really take fault with, battery manufacturers is when it comes to especially vapor products, is that they should have instructions, not just something on a battery with a warning label, but actually instructions, just like when, you get a variable wattage device, and the box may have instructions. Most of the time they have instructions, they have things what you shouldn't do with batteries and things of that nature. And that's what should be in these boxes. Like I buy all my batteries, my Samsung 25 or 18650s from IMR Batteries. That's where I buy it. I used to buy them exclusively from Lightning Vapes. These are genuine batteries. They're very good batteries. They last a very long time if they're taken care of. I have many batteries that are rewrapped. But when you receive a battery in a box, or sometimes they actually just put them right in a case for you and send them to you, battery case that is, there should be instructions as to what to do and as what not to do. And that is really the only legal liability, as far as what I can tell, that they can nail the battery company on, be it Samsung, Sony, the VTCs, or whatever it may be. Okay. Now, as far as internal battery mods, well, they would have to piece together that evidence of the exploded, internal battery mod in order to find out who exactly manufactured that. And Battery Mooch just put out a really good video, and he actually taught me a lot of things in that video. And I've been vaping since April 2011, and he even enlightened me when it comes to battery safety. And I always thought that variable wattage devices protect you very well. I mean, they, as far as, shorts and and high temperature and all this other stuff. And Battery Mugen is in his latest video in regards to battery safety. He stated that it is it doesn't protect you as much as you think, because it's the let's say a variable wattage device. I don't know, by Innokin, okay, the Coolfire 4. Just pick on that. I don't mean to be picking on Innokin, be any vapor company abroad, in overseas or in the U.S., manufactured in the U.S., USA. The let's say the Coolfire 4, or even let's say I don't know, Tesla Invader 3, as far as the external battery mod. Okay, the batteries themselves are not protected. The wiring, the board, and things of that is protected on something like a hard short, high temperature, things of that. It's not actually protecting the batteries. So if the batteries have thermal runaway, well, just because it says high temperature, it says, I don't know, a short circuit, whatever it may be, a low ohm reading, or whatever it may be, it's speaking in terms of the board or the mod itself. It's not talking in terms of the batteries. Now, a lot of these particular injuries here that I'm about to read to you is usually with either two things, really. One thing, they're putting their batteries in pockets with keys, and the negative and the positive is bridged under that little tiny protector, that little white protector on your battery, or really, it could be both at the same time, for that matter. Is that let's say in a true mech mod, especially, in an unregulated device, these individuals are not educated at either the vape shop, by the vape shop owner, or if they are educated, then the user is at fault completely, because they did not follow the vape shop's instructions, or they should have known better, or they're doing stupid things like putting batteries in pockets. That is not the vape shop's responsibility, really, on that. It's as far as the battery manufacturer, it's really not even their fault either, believe it or not. Because, I mean, morally speaking, absolutely, they should put instructions with batteries, even especially batteries that you buy, like N18650 Samsung 25R. Okay, there should be instructions on that, but the Food and Drug Administration has yet to put down battery standards and they were supposed to do this in the Food and Drug Administration, in the FDA final rule in regards to vaping, back when it went into the Federal Register on May 10, 2016. It states it very clearly in that FDA final rule in regards to vaping that they will eventually have a notice to oppose rulemaking and or an advance notice to oppose rulemaking on battery standards. And one of the battery standards would be, I'm sure, that it would say, these are the things you should do with batteries, and these are the things you oughtn't do with batteries, or even with internal battery mods like the Coolfire 4 or anything like that. It could be anything. I'm not just picking on them. But there are no battery standards in place. As far as common sense should tell you that you shouldn't leave batteries in high heat and in very cold weather. These are common sense things. But very little people understand that there's a little tiny white ring at the top of the battery. People don't understand why that white ring is there. People just don't. They treat it as if it's an Acculine flashlight battery, a AA or a AAA battery. I mean, AAA batteries and AA batteries, I just, they're lying around sometimes, metal screws and toolbox tools, and there's just thrown around these batteries. They're thrown into the drawers, and touching all kinds of metals and stuff. Anyone has done that. That's just especially as a kid, you throw an alkaline, you know, what is it, Rayovac or whatever battery into a drawer with all kinds of metal, all kinds of crap. And, nothing's ever happened, at least not in my case, throughout my years. And most likely other people, maybe in extreme cases, but normally nothing happens. But on a lithium ion or ion batteries, a whole different ballgame. They're different than alkaline batteries, and they should be respected as such, especially when you're putting them in unregulated mods with very low ohm readings. So my point is, all these types of lawsuits will wind up settling out. Very rare if they would go to trial. They will settle out. There'll be confidential agreement, be it, I don't know, let's say hypothetically it's Samsung or Sony or whatever have you. Like in this thing here with the eFest IMR 18650. I mean, 18650 eFest battery? Maybe possibly a 26650, but even advanced vapors for the most part stay away from an eFest battery. Well, apparently this particular person, Michael Turner, was unaware of what an eFest battery is. Who knows what that particular, it doesn't say what that particular mod was, where the battery, what the eFest was in. He left it in his left pants pocket and it exploded. I'm sure it was his keys in there, or change, or whatever. So a lot of it has to do with user fault. Then some of it, or maybe even a lot of it, depending upon the case, can be attributable to a vape shop. And as far as the battery manufacturer, there are no federal laws or standards in place to make sure that battery manufacturers, in regards to electronic cigarettes, that is, are followed. And so there's no instructions, there's no pamphlets or any of that when you receive a battery, when you just buy a battery. Now, so when you buy a device, a variable wattage device, a variable voltage device, normally they have instructions in there and they show you what to do, or what they'd have these little cards in there that show you what to do or what not to do with batteries. And even that, just pictures, won't cut it. But actually explain what you should do or what you shouldn't do. In fact, when I give a battery operated with 18650s, or especially the ones that are unregulated with 18650s away to friends or coworkers or whatever, I will print off like 1 or 2 pages of just battery safety, of what you should do and what you shouldn't do, to educate them. As far as I'm concerned, battery safety is the most important part of any vapor product experience. Absolutely. And once you respect that, then everything falls into place. But like I said, these cases will settle out, and that's it. Until the FDA has battery standards, and they've had workshops on that and things of that nature. That is the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, Center for Tobacco Products. But they've yet to issue actual standards for battery companies to follow, let alone when the battery companies follow in regards to vaping products, because they manufacture batteries for many other different types of devices and stuff, laptops or whatever have you, but phones, whatever. But until the FDA actually issues actual actual standards, where the battery manufacturer, in regards to electronic, in regards to vapor products, that it's going to maybe Innokin, the batteries, the internal batteries, or maybe let's say it's going to IMR. IMR is not required. In fact, the FDA, in their standards, can actually require retailers to include battery, 18, lithium-ion batteries or ion batteries, instructions. They could actually put that in their standards, in the FDA standard in regards to batteries. So when the retailer, let's say IMR batteries or whatever have you, like vapes, etc., on down the line, when they sell you an actual battery, they will be required by federal law to include those instructions, those precautions, things of that nature. They could certainly put that in the standards, but there are no standards right now. So these lawsuits will battle back and forth, and then they will settle. So it goes on to say, on March 19, 2017, a man in Berlin was injured when his device exploded in his pocket, causing him to catch fire. The e-cigarette was manufactured by Wismic USA. I think Wismic makes some internal battery devices. I can't remember which ones. I only use their make. The only thing I have a few of their stuff, but they're mainly external battery mods. So you can't hold Wismic responsible for putting batteries into the mod. Okay. But their internal battery mods, well, maybe, but all this stuff will settle, and that's how the lawyers, of course, the law firms make their money. Anyway, it says a Brownsville woman was injured on May 24, 2017, when her device exploded in her purse. It caused her purse, pants, and undergarments and shirt to catch fire. She suffered second and third degree burns. That suit targets Samsung SDI company, which manufactured the battery. Once again, goes to battery standards. Also in May of 2017, an e-cigarette being held in the pants pocket of Jeff House, 31, exploded, causing severe burns to his genitalia and left leg. He was hospitalized for 11 days. The battery was manufactured by LG Chem and then incorporated into a Schmalk GX350 modification. Now, I actually have this GX350. I did a review of that. It's like a 3-battery mod, if I remember right. Some e-cigarette modifications allow users to purchase batteries that are bigger and last longer, or tanks that hold more liquid. Once again, in the pants pocket. It wasn't because of the Schmalk GX350. It was probably because the batteries was actually taken out of the mod, put in their pocket with change or whatever. It's amazing how they never write down keys and change and all this other stuff that was in that pocket. I mean, even if you put a battery, let's say an 18650, by whatever manufacturer, a lithium-ion or ion battery in your pocket, even without change or keys, it's just completely empty in your pocket, and you put your battery in there. The chances of it exploding are much less, okay, but it could still very well explode. Maybe you're rubbing against something. Maybe your place of work, and that battery rubs against something, and maybe you're working on machinery, and through that repetitious movement over and over again, maybe it's hitting against something. Well, it can certainly explode that way. Maybe extreme cold, extreme heat on that battery in your pocket can certainly cause that battery to explode. I would say it's probably 95% user fault. But the reason why unfortunately it's user fault is because there are no battery standards for that is required of Samsung or Sony or vape shops or IMR batteries or whatever have you on down the line to issue forth. It's up to them if they want to include standards or not, or instructions or what not to do with the batteries or not. Even those little cards when you receive a mod from China, They show you how to, certain battery wraps shouldn't be torn and stuff like that. They are not required by federal U.S. law to include those little cards in there. They do that out of their own conscience or just for good business practices. There are no federal laws in regards to battery standards. And as far as states are concerned in the USA and its territories, I'm not aware of any battery standards even within states, though there may be. Every state is different. So, and that's just it. Every state is different. Maybe Texas is much different than New York City, or excuse me, New York, or different than Maine, or different California. I'm sure they have some kind of battery standards, somehow or another. Is the law, the state law, when they speak about battery safety, is it in relation to vaping though? Who knows? And there's many different state laws, and there may very well be laws on the books, but it depends upon your state. But let's say if Maine has laws on the books in regards to, let's say 18650 lithium ion batteries or ion batteries, hopefully I pronounced that right, in regards to vaping, but let's say, I don't know, North Dakota does not. You understand? Then the people living in Maine will probably survive or not have any injuries as opposed to the people that are living in North Dakota. This is one of the main reasons why they have federal laws, especially acts of Congress, United States congressional acts. It's because it's uniform across all the states and the territories. So when that is enacted and signed into law by the president, then Maine, California, North Dakota, whatever have you, will all affect it at once. The moment the president signs that into law, of course, there usually is an effective date that kicks everything off, unless there's like staggered timelines and stuff like that. So there's a lot going on here. It's not as black and white that this particular news article is making it out to appear. It's much more involved here. Anyway, see, and I didn't even read this, by the way. I read like up to here and then I stopped. But here, it even says it right here. It says electronic cigarettes aren't yet regulated by the FDA, and going after the battery manufacturers poses its own difficulties because they're made abroad. Now, they are regulated by the FDA, okay? But they are not, as far as the batteries, the battery manufacturers, they don't have standards. Understand? They don't have standards. And in order to have vaping devices with batteries, they would have to take that battery and put it through a pre-market tobacco application in relation to batteries. I mean, in relation to vaping. And none of that has been done. Says the law firm says Samsung and LG are two major brands. The batteries aren't meant to be used with electronic cigarettes. Well, that's BS. No, they're made, or else they wouldn't be able to operate. They would not operate inside of, like I'm vaping on the Vupu Drag right now, okay? Well, if the 18650 didn't fit into the battery sled, and when I press the button and it turns on and fires, then that's such a bull crap. I mean, the batteries, or however they're manufactured, can be used in any devices. That's really a stupid line she used. It just comes down to battery standards and battery safety and understanding what a battery is. But this is a law firm, so that they're going to put out, bad press. And that's the last thing the vaping industry needs, that's for sure. Anyway, so it says they're very high-powered batteries that are meant to be used in power tools and things like that. We have an expert we use who has likened these to bullets. You have a bullet in your pocket that can explode at any time. Well, if you stick a stick of dynamite in your pocket, it can explode at any time as well. Now, I mean, there are certain things you don't do with a stick of dynamite. If there are a bunch of firecrackers in a brown paper bag, and you put your hand into the bag and pick up, I don't know, a big handful of, 40 firecrackers, right? You don't stick them in your pocket. You just leave them there. I mean, you could, but if it gets very hot or something happens, you're around a lot of heat, who knows? Could very well set them off. There are certain things, just practical common sense. But it's true in the sense that there are no battery standards. There are no uniform battery standards that have been issued by the Food and Drug Administration. And therefore, users or vapors or newbie vapors that have nothing to read to tell them that it's coming in. Let's say the battery standard instructions are coming inside of whatever vape box in the mail. Okay. Now, let's say hypothetically there were these battery standard instructions and et cetera on down the line. And when you receive whatever it is, regulated or unregulated, or just batteries in a box in the mail, then something like this happens, that you put it in your pocket with keys, then it will be most likely, and more probably the user's fault. So there's a lot of variables in these lawsuits here, but they will all settle out. And LG and Samsung and Wismic have millions of dollars to be able to settle it out and things of that nature. But anyway, it says LG Chem, Samsung, and Wismic USA didn't immediately return inquiries for comment. Well, for one thing, they're in China. Anyway, it says Gregory Conley with the American Vaping Association said injuries from electronic cigarettes are rare when you consider that millions of adults use vapor products regularly. And it's true. What is it, 11 million vapors in the USA? And you only hear about maybe 25, 50 cases tops. It's pretty good. As opposed to combustible cigarettes that are maybe not as much as before, in the years before, but burning down houses due to mattress fires and things of that nature. That was in the hundreds every year, and some states even in the thousands. Usually, I don't agree with Gregory Conley, but he makes a basic point. He states they are generally linked to mechanical mods, a type of product that represents a continually shrinking minority of the market. These devices contain no internal circuitry to stop fire incidences and thus can be dangerous if used improperly. Well, if he watches Battery Mooch's latest video, he will learn that not even variable wattage or variable voltage devices can stop things from happening. It can. There's some prevention involved with these particular mods, but they're not foolproof. He goes on to say, with any lithium-ion battery-operated device is subjected to extreme conditions or used with unwrapped or damaged batteries, short circuits can occur. Users of modern devices like Juul or virtually any product that is not a mechanical mod have nothing to fear from the story, as internal safety mechanisms designed to dramatically reduce the chances of battery issues occurring have become a standard in the industry. Well, for one thing, maybe actual, like Juul, whatever, have their own standards, but there are no Food and Drug Administration actual standards, uniform standards. As far as a Juul product, bursting into flames, it's probably quite on the low side, but it can happen. I'm sure it can happen, especially when it's being charged. Conley said his group supported the Cole-Bishop Amendment, which would have required the FDA to set standards for batteries used in vaping products. It didn't pass, and that's true. That was the difference between the HR 2058. One of the compromises was battery safety, amongst other things. And whereas the HR 2058 strictly had to do with the grandfather date of moving February 15, 2007 up to August 8th of 2016. And it goes on and on a little bit more, but actually, I'll put this link under the video so you can read it and cross-reference it or whatever you want to do with it. Anyway, yeah, it's a combination of several things. One thing, use of fault. It's hard to really hold battery manufacturers themselves responsible in regards to vaping devices because there are no uniform standards issued by the Food and Drug Administration. They're lagging behind in a lot of areas. And battery safety, which is crucial in regards to, especially in vaping, the Food and Drug Administration, they did a workshop, I think, I don't know, about a year ago or so, and never heard anything since. So there's a lot of parties to be blamed other than just the battery manufacturer. And these cases will settle out for probably hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not in the low millions. And then they'll go away. And then there'll be more lawsuits. And then the same path it will take. And then they'll settle out and on and on. None of these probably will ever go to trial. I mean, they'll go back and forth and they'll get very close to a trial, but eventually they'll just fold and negotiate. And one side will offer a settlement to the, proffer a settlement agreement to the other side, vice versa. And they'll settle it out. And then you never hear about it. So that's that. Anyway, I wanted to share this with you. And you guys have a good one. Bye bye.